two
I thought it was
paragraphs,
just
like,
citations.
towards your citation.
Yeah, it's just
Was
describing.
it paragraphs?
how
Okay, I didn't use
you
the paragraphs, because I haven't read all the material yet, but I have the material. If she's running late, I'm gonna go to that.
People know something we don't know? Yes.
Us three did. I thought they were due Tuesday.
Yeah, this was.
She got hers done and said that she.
Oh yeah, I read that one for Tuesday or something. Yeah, I put a source and said the citations on Tuesday.
See that? I'm pretty sure she did. Yeah.
But we'll see.
No. I got a comment I'm setting up in the final.
The citations were due Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Not the citation. Oh, okay. So we don't need to give you the citation today?
I was worried. I was like, I thought she said Tuesday.
Oh, we got it done.
Tuesday. Good. I even wrote, I wrote it on the bottom of the sheet, or that you guys
Yes, you
read.
did.
Yeah, because I wanted everybody to have time to find good research. Did you used to have more of a beard? It's going to shave a little bit more?
Yeah, I know that good.
Not a beard, but you know, you're a little bit.
Maybe like peach fuzz, something like that.
I knew you didn't have a beard, but yeah.
Yeah. No, probably.
Hello, I missed a call from the server. I'm one of the owners of this program, but are you looking for one in Castle Rock? Oh, okay. What area? Okay. Well, Garland Johnson's still a professor. He has a branch off of Briargate in the Springs, but there's about 27 branches total, and I have one in Air Force Academy Monument area, and we're all over, so it just depends on who you want. I can give you a main number. It's 598. 719 area code, I apologize. Yeah, 598 6046. Alright? Bye-bye. I'm just waiting for a minute or two so they start. So I wonder what's going on that nobody's showing today.
What happens if it's only us?
What would you say if somebody gave you two topics and you want to say that one of them is kind of less, it's like one hasn't been overdone as much as the other one? Is more unique?
Yes. better choice. Who knows? You need to
Well,
separately.
yeah, I don't want to say it's a better choice because I told her either was a good choice, but I would prefer more unique essay than the same old junk.
Please don't make me read something boring.
Trust me. I mean, it's amazing how limited people are on topics. You've probably heard the there's no new ideas out there. It's almost what it feels like. Okay, guys, I'll tell you what. With there being so few of you, and the fact that I want you guys to have a chance to work on your paper, what I'll do is spend just a little bit of time talking about some format stuff, and I'll let you go. As I said, there's 5 classes left that really work in just the one essay type or one mode of writing, and that's the research paper. But in order to get to the research paper, you have to do the research, and then you have to be able to report out on that research, right? And what I mean by that is you have to be able to show your sources. And so there's 2 ways of showing your sources, and you have to have both in your paper. And that is, you have to have the in-text citation, and that's showing me that I got this quote from this specific page of an article that I read or whatever. So you have to be, you have to actually, I don't want to get a paper that has no citation within the document and then just has 5 sources listed at the end. Like I'm supposed to guess which source and what quote came from what source.
Now, could you just put a number next to it and number the resource?
No, that's not how it's done. I used to that used to be called footnoting. I loved footnotes. It was so much easier. Because then the citations didn't get in the way of when you're reading. Sometimes if you read some of the newer articles that are in APA format, because, it's, especially if you're looking at scientific articles, it stinks because you'll have 4 or 5 sometimes resources right in a row. And so it's almost like you have to skip a gap of the page in order to make sense. And every once in a while, I'll actually have to highlight it in order to get all that other junk out of there so I can read it fluently, right? So I really don't like APA that well as far as reader ease, I guess you could say. But that's not the right stuff. That's not the style. MLA style shows that you put the citations right in the text with the page number, so on and so forth. Now, you can write the author's name within your sentence, like we showed back when we did the MLA stuff, and then just put the page number, like page 38, right? And so you can make it where it's not quite as bad. But, yeah, you do have to put in-text citations. And remember, we don't number, on our works cited page, we don't number them, we go alphanumeric. So the alphabet first, A, B, C, D, E, and then if it just happens to be 1, 2, 3 printing, happens to be one of your sources, or something like that. If an organization is one of your sources and happens to start with a number, you do your alphabet first, and then you start with the number afterwards. So, in alphabetical order, according to the author's name, the first author's last name, okay, or the organization's name. Okay, so what we're doing for, I just want to remind you guys, I had a couple of people kind of go, oh, what do I do? If you take out that paper about the assignment paper, it shows how to do the annotated bibliography. I don't know why we can't be intuitive people, but not everybody's intuitive, right? So it's just like any other document at first, when you put your heading. So you're going to put your name, and you're going to put Sheryl Benjamin, and the date, what is it, 15th?
Yeah.
And then annotated bibliography, okay, and then your last name, and page number. Okay, if you set up your page before you start, and you click on header, okay, and then there's little check boxes. One of the check boxes says second page different from the first. If you click on that before you start typing anything on that header, then it will make it to where the first page has this. What happens is if I just write this on the header, it will write it on every single page. Because that's what a header means. It has every page with that. Okay? And you don't want your period and all that on every single page. You just want your last name on page 2 on page 2, right? So if you click that second page different from the first, then you'll be able to just type on the header of the second page whatever you want the second page to say. And then you don't have to go back and try to erase and figure that out.
How is an annotated bibliography different than works cited?
We discussed this last time.
I missed it.
Oh, okay.
Can you tell us again? Because
Sure.
I missed it.
An annotated bibliography, the only difference between works cited is a works cited is things that you specifically actually cited in your essay.
Okay.
So you might go and collect 20 items and put it in a bibliography. And then when you actually sat down to write your essay, then you only used 6 of them and actually only quoted or paraphrased 6 of them. So even though for the purpose of this assignment, I'm only asking that you annotate 3 of the sources or 3 sources, if you don't use one of those sources in your paper, that's fine. For your annotations, you have to do 3, but later on, say, 2 or 3 classes down the line, if you're asked to do an annotated bibliography, then you've been able to do that. But what a bibliography is a collection of resources. So you've probably seen a textbook or something that will have the footnotes and have exactly what they cited right there, and then in the back have additional resources. That's somewhat like that.
Okay.
Now, the annotation, the difference between a bibliography and an annotated bibliography, is a bibliography is just the collection of the resource listing itself. And then when we annotate it, we basically give information saying, this is the summary of what this is about.
Okay.
Okay? And so you'll see somewhat like an abstract in a way. So you're providing a short abstract of each source that you're looking at.
Okay.
So if you get to your, say, maybe you have to do a senior project. A lot of times schools will do that. You have to do like your capstone project in order to graduate with your degree. And capstone project class, you might spend that whole class doing one research paper. And so that annotated bibliography might be, like say 20, 30 resources. And then when you actually physically write that paper, your works cited, you actually only quote 6. And of course you take all the annotations off the works cited or you do annotations.
Okay.
Understand that? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, this is your heading. This is how you head every paper. Then you stop the heading and you go to the body of the paper, and that's where you actually write the title. So it doesn't, okay. And it's a unique title. So if mine was, I'm going to say my paper is going to be about artificial intelligence and whether or not it's, it's a government conspiracy. And artificial intelligence is actually a government conspiracy to find information out about it. I don't know. Okay. So I would put is artificial intelligence a conspiracy as my title. Okay? Skip one line, and then I would start with my first annotation. Now, if you see on the assignment sheet, that is exactly how an annotation, your resource should be listed like that. Obviously with whatever book or whatever article you choose, so it's going to have different authors and different titles and so on and so forth. It'll be listed like that. So you start off flush to the left, and you list your first in bold, and you list your first annotation, and then you indent 5 spaces in bold, just like mine's bolded, right? It's bolded there, isn't it? The reason we bold it is because you want to just differentiate between this is the resource and this is the paragraphs. Yeah.
You want us to do that like as we are writing our essay, bolded with the citation?
Well, it wouldn't be in your essay, just in the annotated bibliography.
Okay.
So just this assignment.
Okay.
Okay? So this is just the annotated bibliography, so they don't, this is the list of your first source, and it's bolded. See how I kind of tried to make that really bold? And www found that, www whatever. Okay, so you notice that normally, if I were writing this paper, I would indent here, wouldn't I, if that was a paragraph? Okay. Only time we do this is called a hanging indent, is when we're listing a source. Okay? You also do that on your works cited page. On the very last page of your essay, where you're citing the works that you actually used in your paper, you're going to do this hanging indent. Okay, it's part of the style. Okay, so now after I've written my source information out, then I'm going to, I don't skip space. I've already selected when I first started my document that I'm going to double space, right? So this source is double spaced. Everything is double spaced. So I don't skip a line. Have you seen every time I write back to you guys, some of you do it correctly, so you might not have, I write no extra space needed? That's what I mean. If you just double space, there's already one space in between each line. You just start your new paragraph. So you indent 5 spaces, you start your paragraph, and you start your writing. Okay? And this is not bolded. Okay? Your first paragraph of the essay, what is it supposed to be? What's your first paragraph? What information is included?
What it's about, who wrote it.
Yeah. So this is your first paragraph is your summary paragraph, right?
Okay.
Now, when I say summary, you have to, in one paragraph, encapsulate what that author wrote in how many ever pages. If it was a 10-page essay, you still only have a paragraph, really, to describe this. It's okay if it's a little bit longer paragraph. But basically, all you're really trying to get out of it is the main ideas that you care about. By the way, if there's information in that essay, you know, maybe you can use a portion of the essay, but you don't need to use the other portion. You really need to summarize it. You don't have to summarize every single piece. I'm not going to go back and say, oh, you didn't say that this article had this or that in it. That's not the point of this exercise. It's not to absolutely summarize every single tiny thing in it. It's, were you able to look at somebody else's writing, read it, and take out the main points that you would be able to use in your own research. Okay? So that you get a summary paragraph, and yes, Brandon, you're correct. You should have a topic, sentence, and a body and a conclusion, just to say there's anything else. And then your next paragraph, again, indenting 5, no extra space in between, it's just the next line. Your next paragraph, what is it supposed to be about?
The first topic that you discussed in your summary paragraph.
And yeah. Because the summary is just the overall summary of the article. The second, it says in there what your second paragraph should be.
Showing how you can use this certain topic in your paper.
So you connect the source to your research. in the second.
Can
So
can the second paragraph be first person then?
yes, it should be actually
Okay.
first person. And you can see in mine where I say my focus is going to be, or the focus is going to be, right? So this is telling, if you're proposing to, I have to write proposals all the time, telling people, hey, this is some research that I'm planning to do for your company. And I constantly have to say, okay, this research shows that these are some best practices that you should be using in your company. And then, as I show the best practices, then I would have to maybe give a summary of, here's how like a proposal will say, here's how I think this research connect to your business specifically. Okay, that's kind of what you're doing. You're saying, here's some research that's kind of a best practices about what I'm researching. And here's how I'm going to connect this research to my paper.
So if it's useless, do you put that in that? I'm just
Well,
asking.
you're trying to pick out 3 good resources,
Mhm.
so it should be.
Well, but
totally-
you said it's supposed to be all the sources that you use.
No.
But this assignment is 3
This
that you would
assignment
use.
should be 3 decent.
Okay.
Yes, no. I know what you're saying. No, you can't go out and say, okay, I have data mined 760 articles, and I'm going to do even when I did my PhD, I didn't have to list all 700 articles that I read. I still only picked out, I think, 34 articles that really were in depth. And then I think I ended up using something like 19 main, because one study was one of the biggest studies on my dissertation. So, and then I found a couple of other studies that were primary studies that I could support that with. So I didn't have to list. I'm sure when I started data mining, I probably started off with, like I said, 700, 800 different things to look at. So, no, you don't have to ever do an annotated bibliography of 700. But what it is you start finding good resources. Oh, that's a good resource, I'm going to put it over here. That's not so good, that's not so good. That's a pretty good resource, I'm going to put it over here. Pretty soon you have a stack of 10 or 12, maybe 15 items throughout an 8 or 16 week course that you've been collecting. Those would be annotated in a bibliography. Okay? So not every single article you use. And so no, it would never be this is crap. It would be more like, this is a great resource for this subject, but I didn't find a specific quote that I could find. I didn't find a specific, and that's, a lot of times it's just because this paper says something similar to this paper, but this paper was a lot more articulate in the way that it presented the piece, or that this had a little bit more authoritative. So even though that other article was a good article, it might be helpful, I kind of like this piece a little bit better, so I'm going to actually quote this piece. But okay. That's how I use it. Is it okay? So then if I go on to page 2, if it's okay if the other paragraph sneaks over to page 2. But this was what was funny, is I had a lot of people who are like, well, what do I do with the second and third annotation? Exactly the same thing. You just start the new paragraph with your annotation. So say this paragraph went into my next page just because I can show you. So this is still the second paragraph of the first entry, okay? And I just finished it. It went a couple pages down on my second page. Now it's time for me to put my second entry. All I do is go ahead and remember it's left justified and it's going to be bold. I don't skip extra space. I do the hanging indent. And I go ahead and list my next resource. I don't skip a space. I indent. I start my first summary paragraph for the second resource. Pretty simple, right? I don't know why, but people are like, how do I do that? Really? You can't figure it out? But that's how you do it. And then 3 resources. Would you normally have more than 3 resources? Yes. But for the purpose, I just want you guys to learn how to do it. You don't have to keep repeating and repeating. And I'm not looking for your final paper. I would like for you to have 5. I would like for you to have at least 3 very academic style, very credible sources. So from the one of the databases would be better, okay? And then you can have 2 additional resources, and I don't care if Wikipedia is one of them, fine. I don't particularly like Wikipedia, but if it's an additional resource, it doesn't bother me, okay? Or if you just want to do a website or something that's not completely academic, it's okay for your 4th and 5th to be on your actual paper, not on this. So this annotated bibliography is due on Tuesday. Your working rough draft of your essay is not going to be due until after we get back from vacation, Thanksgiving vacation. But I wanted to quickly talk to you about that draft and how it looks. Okay? Same exact heading, it doesn't change. The headings never change. Okay? Except for instance, this annotated bibliography, this is going to say research rough draft, right? Or research paper rough draft. Okay? So last name, your heading, your title. Okay, this time you're starting off your paragraphs like you always do, so you indent 5 spaces and you start your paragraph, right? You start your introduction to your paper. Just like every other essay that we've written so far this term. Okay? So nothing changes except for some reason people aren't indenting. So your intro paragraph. What I want to talk to you about here is that in this type of paper, a 5-paragraph essay does not lend well to a research paper. Because a research paper is more on a different authority, because you are researching because you don't know about it, you don't understand it, okay? So the majority of the work is going to be somebody else's work. Like 40% of it is going to be paraphrased, maybe 30% quotes, 20 to 30% quotes, and then the rest is you kind of bringing things together by, talking a little bit about how it, what you're learning from it, whatever. So, transitions, that sort of thing.
Is it like an argumentative essay?
It does not have to be argumentative.
So it's not.
It does not, I changed it from being argumentative to being, it doesn't matter if it's argumentative or just straight, I don't understand. You can pose both sides of anything. So, for artificial intelligence, for example, that was my paper. I would probably look at a few things in artificial intelligence. The main things I've been seeing is using artificial intelligence in safety, like vehicle safety, using artificial intelligence in surveillance, right? And then I've seen all of the conspiracy theories saying that artificial intelligence is going to be able to teach itself and eventually take over the world. Okay? And so you see those types of arguments. But I would want to address that in a research paper because people don't realize that that's actually thoughts that are coming out about this topic. So if I'm looking at artificial intelligence, I'm going to write my introduction and my thesis statement. And my thesis statement changes in that I don't have to prove anything. I just have to say, these are things that we're going to be, that I'm going to be looking at. So, although artificial intelligence has become a mainstream technology, it's important to understand the history, the history of artificial intelligence, the evolution of artificial intelligence, and the future of artificial intelligence. Right? So now I have my projected organization. I And I know that I'm going to talk about history. I'm going to talk about, what did I say? The history, I said, what was the second one? I'm making this up on the fly. Come on, guys. What was my second one? Evolution. And then I said future implications, right? Okay, so that's so I still have to have a thesis statement. But the thing about these types of papers is I will eventually get here. What I can do is I can use what's called leveled headings in order to organize my paper, because when I start talking about the history of AI, one paragraph probably isn't going to be enough. Okay? When I'm talking about evolution, I'm probably going to want to talk about, like I say, safety issues, and probably going to want to talk about surveillance, and I'm going to want to talk about all this extra stuff. So I might do something like this and use level headings. So a level 1 heading in MLA is left justified, bolded. Still the same font. I don't know why, but people like to keep changing their fonts. You choose one font. If the font is 12, your title is 12, everything is 12. We don't underline things, but for some reason it's like people like that 60 font for their titles, or something like that. And you don't change the font. You just either bold or you don't bold, and those types of things. Okay, so you could use a leveled heading. I like to use the third level heading, which is the centered heading that's bolded, and say something like overview. This is the only time that you skip space. Okay, is when you use your level headings. You skip one space after the heading, and then you start your paragraph. Okay. By the way, the level headings, level 1 heading is left justified, bold. Bold type. This is a level 1. A level 2 heading is also left justified, italicized, okay? Italicized, I can't italicize my hand, right? So italicized and not bolded. A level 3 heading is bolded, all caps, and to the center. Okay? And then I don't know 4 and 5 and 6 and other. So I like to use that level 3 heading at the very beginning. And so big words like overview, history, evolution, future implications would be in that. And as long as you're consistent, it doesn't matter what one you do. Okay? So if I do overview, and then my next level 2 heading is going to be, and I write my paragraph out, blah, blah, blah. And maybe this was just an overview of the background of why we decided to develop artificial intelligence, or the definition of what artificial intelligence is. A lot of times when you're doing an overview, you have to define words. That's okay. And then I start off with history. Okay. And then maybe I would want to use a level 2 heading that says like, early concept. Yeah, maybe I'd do something like that, especially if I want it. Correct. So, I would be using that level 1 heading